You want to kick this one off?
I don't even know where to start.
I never really know where to start anything. And that sounds like a great place to start.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's it, actually. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, of course, now that I'm not thinking about it, there's a place to start. We were just talking earlier about how often we don't recognize, but while we're telling people who we want to believe we are, we're actually manipulating ourselves. Like, we might be trying to convince them of something about us, but we're doing so because we're trying to convince ourselves of that thing. And so at some point we come to the realization that we've always been doing things with the intention of having people perceive us in a certain way or getting to a certain end result. And there's that realization, like, oh God, like, I've been manipulating people just because I was needy, right? And you come to that point, but then you kind of realize you weren't really manipulating people. They were a part of that. You were trying to manipulate yourself. You were trying to convince yourself that you were something else other than who you are. You were trying to tell yourself that you should be something and manipulate yourself into that thing. And so it was never really about other people.
No, it's always just, I'm going to wait for the dogs here. No, it's never really about other people, because the only thing that I'm assuming should be different as I go is myself. And I have the opportunity to continue to judge myself or try and even maintain this sense of control, like I know exactly who I am or what I am at all times, and as if there's a way to maintain that. It's like, how do I maintain that? I keep thinking about myself to try and maintain this perception that I have. But if I don't try to maintain it so much, there isn't so much to live up to anymore. There isn't so much of a bar or an expectation of myself to do or be anything, because who am I to assume that, you know, what I have to share or say or express moment to moment, who I am, what I am, shouldn't be expressed? You know, who am I to assume that there's ever anything wrong with, you know, a random thought that I'll have? Why is there anything wrong with expressing that?
Well, that's exactly it. There is nothing wrong with expressing that. But somehow, because I think we have so much ability or so much capacity to look at all of the possible things we could do, we immediately fall under the idea that one of them is right. And so we look at all those possibilities going, it's got to be one of these. And it never occurs to us that it's the one we're on. Ever. Like, it's the natural thing that's going to happen next as a result of your growth. We never assume that. We assume we have to take control and have an idea of where we're going, and obviously that is going to be the most effective way to become the best version of myself, never recognizing that the best version of yourself is the version of yourself that is conflict-free, clear, empathetic, and without self-judgment, which you can do right now, and then allow that person to grow. Because if you were to become that person suddenly right now, you'd have the rest of your life. But we keep assuming, once I get to be that person, it's the end of the road. It's like I've achieved perfection. Well, then what? You're not going to learn from anything anymore. Nothing's going to be a lesson for you. Nothing's going to be any kind of insight anymore. There's not going to be any up and down. That sounds boring. It sounds really boring. And worse, it sounds like it is super limiting in terms of I can never experience anything that throws me off. Like, wow, that sounds terrifying. Like, to live in that tiny little box where you can just be like, I'm all right with being thrown off from time to time. I'm okay feeling confused. I'm all right not knowing. Well, all of a sudden, you're learning from everything. And it's just because you're allowing yourself to get out of the way so you can take that shit in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sense of it getting boring, or assuming that if I am what I think I am, then stagnation is the best idea. You know, maintaining that, it takes this degree of maintaining, you know, this certain perception, and that maintenance comes with a sort of bar, you know, this huge bar, depending on how much I'm trying to feel better via how I think about myself, because then, you know, that idea is always at risk. It's always at odds, and it can be at odds in any situation at all. You know, it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can be anything. This assumption that, you know, there's a right or a wrong thing to do. It's like it's always going to be there, but I don't have to stare at it or look at it. I can just be involved in the spot that I'm in right now.
That's right. You can make a breakfast burrito for dinner.
Yes, you can.